You just lost someone you love, and now the insurance company is questioning every detail and making you feel like you're the one on trial. You're grieving, overwhelmed, and probably second-guessing everything you're doing, wondering if one wrong step could cost you and your family everything. And in Indiana, if you don't follow the right process or meet key deadlines, your entire wrongful death claim could get thrown out before you ever get to court. We're Chad Romey and Chris Blackburn, and we've helped hundreds of Indiana families navigate these cases and hold negligent parties accountable, even when the odds felt stacked against them. In this video, we're going to walk through 4 simple steps that you and your family must take to protect your claim so that your family has a real shot at justice and you never get blindsided by a technicality.
So step 1 is making sure that you secure the evidence right away. And that's really the foundation of any case, but especially with a wrongful death case. And it can be as simple as requesting a copy of the police report from the investigating officer, working with the police officer and working with the investigators. So secondly, it's also important that you write down the names and phone numbers of any witnesses to the accident. This may require you to do a little investigation on your own, maybe through social media, but that really is going to pay dividends for you. We come across a lot of cases where the police officers don't put down the actual name and phone number of a witness. And a lot of times there's hundreds of witnesses around. If you drive past an accident, you see a big truck with multiple cars piled up. There's people standing everywhere. But a lot of times the officers, unfortunately, in the heat of the moment, they don't get all that information. So conduct your own investigation. Another thing you can do is go to the accident scene yourself. Take your cell phone with you and document and take photos and videos of things that you see. Going to the scene can pay dividends to secure some of the evidence that exists. Sometimes things get left behind in the grass that happened to be missed. We've come across lots of debris, car parts, clothing, sometimes shoes, sometimes cell phones, all sorts of things.
I really wanted to talk about what you said about witnesses. And so police officers, even in wrongful death investigations, there can be witnesses that are talking to police officers, but they just don't get noted on the police report. We found one that really, her opinion about how the accident happened was much different than the opinion of the folks that made it onto the police report. And we just happened to find her because she was so impacted by watching this accident happen that she posted about it on Facebook. And so there is, finding that information sooner rather than later is certainly helpful. One other thing that's a lot of timely is data, right? So if a big truck, a commercial truck is involved in an accident, lots of times they have dash cameras, they have black boxes, and you want to get to that information before it's gone.
Lots of data in those semi-trucks, especially with some of the bigger trucking companies. Not only do they have cameras facing forward, but they usually have cameras facing the drivers. I'm aware of some companies that have cameras on the sides of their vehicles as well as the backside. So there's a lot of data that can be downloaded. Chad brought up a good point about social media. Social media can sometimes hurt our own cases because our clients are posting about some things. Sometimes it can be really helpful because the defendant might be posting about some things as well. I'll tell you a quick story about document preservation. So a client hired me in a wrongful death case, and it appeared on the police report that my client was at fault for the wreck. He was going in excessive speed, clearly above the speed limit. But after we did an accident investigation and sent out our letters of preservation, we hired an investigator and an accident reconstructionist. We were able to get a video from McDonald's. And our accident investigator, our reconstructionist, was able to take the actual camera footage, the video from the drive-through. How, I don't know. The math it's above my head, but they were able to show the actual speed of my client's vehicle. And it actually showed the intersection where the crash occurred, and it showed the other driver proceeding through a red light. So without that evidence, that case would have been much, much more difficult, but we were able to, he hired up. But in that particular case, the mother hired us right away, and we were able to get to work really quickly on that particular case.
The key takeaway is that fast action preserves the truth and prevents that data from disappearing, either because somebody is maliciously trying to make it disappear or just through the passage of time that surveillance video can go away. The second category that's really important after a wrongful death case is to really put together documentation of the losses. And so a lot of losses after an accident are actual things that you can measure. Income that's no longer going to be coming in, expenses, funeral expenses, medical expenses. You want to document all of that. There's also
and I'll just interject real quick, because in the Midwest, we use a phrase all the time. Everyone uses it, and we say, And let me tell you, no. The insurance companies, your jurors, they don't know. You have to get the actual document, the actual physical documentation, and you've got to get it right away.
Yeah, you want to, again, you're not trying to commoditize what you guys are going through here. But at the end of the day, the only thing you can get through this process is some sort of financial compensation. It's certainly not a fair trade. It never is going to be a fair trade. But in order to prove that claim, you have to have documents. Without the documents, many times it's just the argument is, well, if it's not documented, then it didn't happen.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. And so you're going to be able to go through and even just gathering photographs when you're talking about wrongful death claims, because there's that evidence of an emotional loss, a relationship loss. And so put together your family photo book and make sure you have it all in order for when it's time to actually make the claim.
That's kind of a hard one before we talk about the third thing that you can look at in a wrongful death case. But the emotional anguish, loss of companionship, that's probably a separate video that Chad I could go into, just talking about those things alone. But time frame, how long do you have on these? Do they last forever? No, you have 2 years from the date of the incident to file a lawsuit.
Or to otherwise resolve your claim.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
but really, the next one is you don't have to talk to an insurance company.
Yeah.
In fact, you should educate yourself and talk to a lawyer beforehand.
All right. Knowing that you have a certain amount of time to act, we always urge action sooner rather than later to gather evidence, names of witnesses, make sure you're preserving the claim. But it doesn't mean you have to do this alone, right? So insurance companies are going to be calling. They want information just to process their claim. And so my advice is always, at the very least, talk to a lawyer prior to talking to the insurance company. Again, the adjuster is trying to gather information. My advice, talk to a lawyer to determine what information should you, or perhaps should you not, be sharing with the insurance company.
It doesn't even have to be a recorded statement. A lot of times the insurance companies and their adjusters, they're having a casual conversation with you, and they're documenting their file. They're setting the appropriate reserves, but throughout that communication, you might say something that, unbeknownst to you, hurt the case. Just last week, talked to a prospective client, and she said, well, the insurance company asked me if I had any prior problems with my back before. And I said, well, yes, I did. And then they got mad because she said she wasn't able to settle with me right away and that they needed to request 5 years of her prior medical records. And frankly, that's information that you just don't need to volunteer at that stage. It may put you in a box where they won't make you an offer, but it's information you don't need to volunteer.
And so also in those early conversations with insurance companies, sometimes they will ask you to sign things. They might try to resolve a case. And again, before you sign anything, it's really important that you know the full extent to what the document is going to be accomplishing for the insurance company. And so at the very least, have a lawyer look at the documents that they want you to sign, that the insurance company wants you to sign before you do so.
I can tell you without seeing the documents, most of them are engineered to give them some sort of information, good or bad, for the case.
Yeah. And so even if that document is simply a release agreement, they're trying to settle the case with you, and here's all the money. It's an amount of money that you think should settle the case. Still have a lawyer review the release before you sign it. Let's recap our 4 points here. First, secure every piece of evidence that you can right away. document your elements of loss and the expenses that you're incurring. You got to move fast. I understand you have 2 years from the date of your incident, but that time can get away from you. So act fast and then get legal help before you deal with the insurance company, not after.
If you follow these 4 steps, you'll put yourself in a position to win your wrongful death case here in Indiana to restore the justice for the loss of your loved ones.
Now, if you're ready to protect your rights even further, you can't afford to miss our next video, which is "This Wrong Move Could Destroy Your Car Accident Injury Claim, Speaking to the Insurance Company Before a Lawyer." And we're going to show you exactly what insurance adjusters are looking for when they call and why that one simple conversation could ruin your case before it even starts. You need to know this before you pick up the phone, not after. We'll see you over there.